I've been watching the Tony Robbins Time to Rise Summit this week. Whilst a lot of it is high energy and motivational, one idea really stayed with me in a practical workday way. He speaks about how lives are shaped by patterns and how these patterns determine the state we live in. And it made me reflect on patterns I often see in high performing professionals. When work feels heavy, it's often not the work itself, but it's the state that we bring into the work. And that state is often shaped by the habits that we've stopped noticing. Tony speaks about pattern recognition, and that's basically habits that recreate the same state. In work life, that basically means identifying the habits that make you feel a certain way every day. For example, not getting enough sleep causes a decrease in your resilience level, or overthinking early in the morning causes you to be tense before the day even begins. Checking your emails as soon as it comes in, which creates urgency, and that becomes your baseline. If you keep entering the day with the same habits, then you will be entering the day with the same state, despite even if your work has shifted. The second idea he speaks about is pattern utilization, is using these patterns, these habits to get through life. So high performing professionals are very used to using patterns in order to cope. So this shows itself as people pushing through their tiredness despite how they're feeling, overthinking to feel prepared, staying busy to feel in control, and saying yes to avoid friction. So, an example that comes to mind is this one executive that I engaged with some time back. This person, even though they were on leave, they expected people to WhatsApp them, to message them as to what's going on. And this is not letting go because they want to be in control. And that's a pattern. But these patterns, these habits, they help us cope, but it drains us. When you're on leave, you should be 100% on leave. Just because habits help you to cope doesn't mean it's good for you, doesn't mean we need to keep to those habits. And it doesn't mean it's helping your energy. Many people burn out because they're good at coping. And it's not because they're weak, it's that they've learned how to cope over time. The third idea he speaks to is pattern creation. And this is choosing patterns intentionally. So let's just confirm it doesn't mean changing your job, it means changing one habit that will have an impact on your state in a positive way. So, for example, my bad habit is the lack of sleep, sleeping too late. Adequate sleep would be a key differentiator for me to be in a more calm, relaxed state of being. Also, there's overthinking. So, if you're overthinking a deliverable, you might even pass the deadline because you want it to be perfect. So, remember the 80-20 principle? If you feel that it's 80% completed, then send it out. Get that first review and refine as you work through it. So that's pattern creation. You're identifying what the issue was and how are you coping. You're making small adjustments so that you can break that habit and you can start building new patterns. Or what are habits that you find is creating a pattern and impacting your state? Drop it in the comments below. Share it if you feel comfortable. And what are you going to do about it? What pattern are you going to create? Just one small adjustment. When you change the habit, you change the state. And when you change the state, your work experience and how you experience work day to day also changes. So it's important to change the state, but it comes back to identifying the pattern recognition. Then there's pattern utilization. Why are you utilizing it? How is it allowing you to cope? And then there's pattern creation. What can we do about it? What little adjustment can we make to change that habit, to change that pattern? Because once we change that pattern, the habit that's creating that pattern, then we'll be changing our state. Burnout rarely starts with collapse. It starts with the same depleted state that is reinforced day in and day out by the same habits until it becomes normal. So, rebuilding your relationship with your job doesn't mean you have to change your job. Often it starts with identifying and noticing the habits that inform your state and then making small shifts, small adjustments to it. So that's how work begins to feel lighter again. It's not because it's a new job, it's because of how you show up.